Hey, Kevin Yates here. So today I want to share 6 strategies for dads to avoid overeating on the weekends without giving up the foods that you love. One of the problems that so many dads face is that, if you're anything like me, you work hard all week. You are taking care of your family and all of the responsibilities that go with being a dad and living a busy life. And summertime's here, which means that you're probably trying to lose some weight, get in shape, and look and feel good for the summer. But then the weekend comes and you decide to reward yourself with maybe a dinner out with the wife and kids or some dessert. And before you know it, 1 or 2 days of rewards ends up being the thing that undoes the entire week of progress that you made. And this isn't about needing more willpower or you need more motivation. It is about having a plan. And so in this video, I want to break down 6 of the strategies that I've used that have helped me lose over 30 pounds in the last year and keep it off. I am now leaner than I've been in about the last 15 years. And this is the first summer that I finally feel confident to take my shirt off. So I want to share some of these strategies with you to help you do the same thing. So the first strategy I want to share is something that I call controlled flexibility, which basically is that, you know, before, like, I had no plan when I went into the weekends. It was like the weekends were the time where I was going to enjoy myself. And what happened was that I could go so overboard on the weekend where, like, a meal that was maybe supposed to be about 500 calories ended up turning into 1,500 to 2,000 calories. And that might sound crazy to you, but it's a lot easier to do than you think. Like, it is a lot easier to consume 1,000 to 2,000 calories than you can even imagine. And it happens faster than you can think as well. So instead of that happening, what I do is I allow myself to eat more than my weekday calories on Saturday nights. Like, that is my night. I'm going to go out with the family. We're going to have a dinner and dessert night, out typically. And so that means I'm going to go overboard, but I'm going to do it within reason. So, I'm okay with setting a limit on what I'm willing to go overboard with. And I plan that ahead. So for me, I'm okay with going an extra 1,500 calories over, which, again, that might sound kind of crazy, but for me, I know 3,500 calories equals 1 pound of fat. Like, that's how many calories are in a pound of fat. So I'm consuming at 1,500 calories a little less than a half a pound. And yeah, there's going to be some water I'm going to hold. But if I go into the next week and I'm only a half a pound to a pound above where I was going into the weekend, I'm okay with that. So controlled flexibility is, enjoying yourself within reason, having a plan though as to how far over you're okay with going, but also knowing what the end result is before you go there. Like, you've got to know what you're willing to do and what the result's going to be, so that you don't go into the next week, so far behind the 8 ball because you didn't plan out what the result of, what you're willing to do on the weekend is. Okay, so plan that ahead. The second strategy is planning dinners ahead. So as I said, Saturday is a day where, we're doing family stuff together. We're always going out to places. But, if we don't plan ahead, like if I don't have a plan for what's for dinner, then what the day will look like is we're busy running around all day with the kids. And then all of a sudden it's like dinner time rolls around and we're starving. And then we're like, okay, what are we going to eat? And if I wait until I'm starving to decide what I'm going to eat, I make bad decisions, like really bad decisions. So I don't want to do that. And so instead of doing that, I plan ahead. So, about Wednesday or Thursday at the latest, my fiance and I are deciding, okay, where are we going this weekend and where are we going to eat? Because we're going to find a place within the area that we're at. That's where we're going to eat. And so when we plan that, I'm looking for a place where they have an online menu because I want to look at the menu and plan what I'm going to eat in addition to where we're going to eat. And then that way I know when I see what I'm going to eat, then I can kind of look at the nutrition facts on there, and then I can just kind of like plan it out. How many calories I know about how many calories I want for my dinner, and then my dessert as well. So I can just kind of, fit things in. And that way, when we go out, there's no guesswork. We're not waiting until we're starving and making bad decisions. It's like we know where we're going. I know what I'm ordering. I know how much I'm having and all of that. So, that's kind of the idea, is to plan your dinners ahead. The third strategy is building dinner around, veggies. So for me, it's like protein and veggies. Protein is the foundation of my meals. That's kind of the first thing that I consider, is knowing, making sure I have a protein source and knowing how much I'm having, what I need and what I'm going to have. So around that, then I'm basing that around veggies as much as possible rather than carbs. And again, the reason why is, it's not that you can't have carbs with your dinner. You can. But for me, I know that if I'm basing my meal around carbs and protein, it's very easy for me to spiral out of control and end up consuming 2,000 calories at dinner alone. Like, I really can do that. So it's just very easy for me to overconsume on that end. So what I found is the best thing for me is I'll plan veggies around that, whether that's like a teriyaki bowl that instead of rice, I'll load veggies onto that thing, or it might just be some kind of, meat dish with a big like salad with a ton of veggies in there. And I'll eat the veggies first, because what it does is it does a couple of things. One is it takes up more space in my stomach, so I feel a little bit fuller, and that makes it less likely for me to overeat when I have the main meal. And then the second thing is that for me, it feels like I'm eating a large volume of food. There's a lot of chewing in there. I'm doing a lot of eating, but I'm consuming very few calories as a result of that. So it just allows me to control my dinner better. And when I can control my dinner better, I can a lot of times control my dessert better as well, because I have, a lot of kind of space filled up at a very low calorie cost. So planning the dinner around, or planning protein around veggies for dinner. Fourth strategy, and I just covered it. I just kind of like put two in, but it's eat your veggies first. So that was like the third and the fourth strategies. The fifth is something that I am going to start doing this weekend. I have not been implementing this enough on the weekends, but I have been doing this during the week, and the results have been really, really good. And that is to push dinner out as late as possible. A lot of times, like, I'm busy working during the day. My fiance is busy, working, and she gets home later at night. And a lot of times, we're not having dinner until maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock, sometimes later, a little later than that. But what I find is that if the later that I can push my dinner, the better control I have late at night against late night cravings. So especially on a Saturday night where I know we're having a dinner out, I'm going to eat what I want and enjoy some things. And I'm also going to have a dessert because I love dessert. So I'm going to push my dinner out as late as I possibly can. Now it's a little bit different. When we're out with the kids, it's like, they're getting hungry. Their appetites are like crazy. They're very active. So it's not always going to work to wait until late at night. And I'm not talking about having dinner at 10 o'clock at night or later than that. But as late as we possibly can. Now, we can often get away with pushing dinner to like 7:30. So I'm just like moving to push that as late as I possibly can. Because again, if I go into dessert and I'm still a little bit full from dinner, I'm not going to eat as much dessert, and that's going to help me control how much I consume. And then finally, the sixth strategy is avoiding the all-you-can-eat buffets as much as possible. This has been a big undoing for me over, the past month, when Father's Day came in, and then we had birthdays, and it's like we had one weekend after another where there was always some kind of all you can eat kind of buffet, and the problem is that it's too easy to lose track of how much you're eating. You're sitting down and the plate's getting filled up, and you're having a conversation and you're trying to enjoy yourself. It's very difficult, and you got a lot of things on your plate that are happening. And it's very difficult to try and track all that stuff. And you don't want to have to be doing that when you're enjoying your time on the weekend. At least you want to limit it, as much as possible. So instead of making it that big headache, what I'm doing now is I'm pushing the all you can eats, and even pizza nights, because pizza night for me is kind of like an all you can eat night. Pizza's so calorie dense. One slice of a large pizza where we go is easily, 330, 350 calories. And if I'm eating 4 slices of that, I'm over 1,200 calories right there, just for 4 slices of pizza. It's crazy. So instead of doing that, I'm pushing those all you can eats out. I'm still going to have them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not giving them up, but I'm going to have them once a month instead of having them 2 or 3 times a month. And that just makes a big difference, because then again, I don't want to go into Monday, 3 pounds, 4 pounds, 5 pounds heavier than I did going into the weekend, because then I'm having to spend my entire week playing catch up, trying to lose the weight that I gained on a weekend. And it's ridiculous. And then I stay stuck and I can't make any progress. So, what I've learned with this is that, you don't have to be perfect by all means. You're a dad, you work hard all week, you got a family, you want to enjoy your time with them. So it's not about, restriction and deprivation and having to summon willpower and motivation and white knuckle and grind your way through the weekends. you know you don't have to be perfect, but you do need a plan. The more that you can kind of plan for the weekend, the better chance you have to be successful and to be able to still make progress, week to week, rather than having, 1 or 2 days on the weekends undo all the hard work that you've done all week long. So, weekends are not a break from your goals. They're kind of like the proving ground, though, to see how committed you are to them. So again, you can allow yourself to enjoy the foods that you love. You just have to do it with some structure and strategies and a plan in place. This is the stuff that we discuss in my Fit Dad group that's available for free. If you are interested in that, we discuss strategies like this and plenty more. Then comment the word Fit Dad down below and I will send you the link to get you in. But again, I've said this before, this is a very, very small group right now. I'm doing this on purpose. I am not looking to put hundreds of dads in there who, are just kind of, they'd like to get in better shape, but they're not really committed to actually following through and keeping their word, and achieving these goals. I'm looking for dads who are committed to doing this. So for that reason, I'm keeping this group very tight and very small and growing it small. So if that describes you, what I've just said, you're committed to your goals, and you're willing to do the work that, it takes to get there without having to sacrifice all your free time, your family dinner nights out or your date nights with your wife, without having to restrict yourself and give up everything that you love in order to get in shape. Comment the word fit down below and I'll get you in the group. And in the meantime, be sure to check out this video.